it's just this tiny, subtle sort of, you know, record noise in the background. Just very subtle.
Electronisounds Audio, the YouTube channel for you.
Hey, what's happening, guys? It's Dean from Electronisounds. Let's write a house beat today inside of the Electron Digitakt. I'm going to use my new sound banks for this example, and I've gone ahead and started us off with an empty pattern inside of the Electron Digitakt, and I've deleted the factory drum sounds. If you want to know how to delete those factory drum sounds, there's a link up here in the corner on how you can get that done in your Digitakt when you start a new project as well. Okay, let's start at 120 BPM today and see what we can come up with. Let's start off by loading a kick drum to pad 1 here, and I'm going to hold down the function button, and I'm going to turn the level data sound browser knob, and this is going to get us into our sound banks. I'm going to go ahead and click over to bank B because that's where I've got my prime kicks bank installed, and by holding the function down and pressing yes, we can start scrolling through the sounds. Now it's easy to just kind of, you know, pick the first kick that sounds good, but we'll go ahead and scroll through just a few here. I'll try to stop hitting the button quite so hard so you can hear more of the kick itself. I like that. Oh man, I know I said let's make a house beat, but that's kind of like more of a dark techno or a dub techno kick, but I really like the way that sounds. Let's just go with that for now and go ahead and load that up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to release the function key and I'm going to hit actually yes now. And that what's going to do is load that kick to pad 1 here for us. I'm going to go ahead and turn the level up on that. Make sure there and then here as well. Fantastic. And what we'll do is we're going to go ahead and just put in a 4 on the floor, kick pattern here. We'll hit the record button to get us into step mode there on pad 1. There we go. We've got ourselves a kick drum. Now what we can do is go ahead and go out of step mode here and maybe head over to track 3 because I like to save track 2 for like a clap or a snare sound. So let's maybe see if we can't load a hi-hat sound to the 3rd pad here. And I'll do it the same way that I loaded that kick drum. I'll just hold the function and then I'll start scrolling in the sound browser. You'll notice that I'm holding the function button down as I do this. And I'm going to click us over into bank D because that's where I have my prime hats bank installed. And looks like we're highlighted onto a hat that's called farts. That can't be all bad, right? That's actually not bad at all. Oops. Let's go ahead and play the kick drum as we're scrolling for a hat sound to go with it. So I'll hold function and I'll turn the knob. Well, we're going to go back to that galloping. That's really cool. But I want to give you guys just an example of some of the other hats in here, you know. That's cool too. So you get an idea that there's quite a variety of hats here. We're going to go back to that galloping because that was really doing it for me. It's got ourselves kind of a really rhythmic thing happening without too much work. So I'll let go of the function key and I'll just hit yes to go ahead and load that hat onto pad 3. We'll go ahead and hit the record button here to get us into step mode on pad 3. And I'll just put that on the upbeats. Maybe adjust the volume on that to be a little bit lower. Now, what we're dealing with here is we're loading sound presets, which means that they may have, filter settings, they may have LFO settings, they may have really specific envelope settings, and like even sends to the effects and specific pan settings. So rather than just browsing samples, when you're browsing sounds, you get, a lot of pre-built information. Like for instance, there's already a high pass filter on this hi-hat sound that's, taking out the lows from that. We'll play with that a little bit in the mix and see if we can't really just get that seated and grooving. Just taking a little bit more of the low frequencies out of that hi-hat sample. Maybe put a little bit more reverb on here. Maybe we'll hit function and reverb to adjust the reverb settings. I'll put the filter up a little bit to carve out some low frequencies. Pull down this high part of the filter. Maybe make the decay time of the reverb quite a bit longer. Turn the volume of that reverb up a little bit, and maybe make the reverb itself just a little bit darker by turning this filter down over here. And also, by turning this filter down, we can make it a little darker. I like the way that's sounding, but it's a little bit heavy on the reverb, so we're just going to pull the reverb back in the mix now that we've got it seated. Alright, fantastic. Let's go ahead and hit function and delay and put a little bit of custom delay settings on this as well. I'm going to bring up the high pass filter so we take some of the lows off of whatever's going sent to the delay. And I'll turn the knob on the right down as well, so we'll shave some of the high frequencies off that are coming out of this delay. We'll turn the ping pong on for sure, and we'll widen that delay up quite a bit. I'll turn the feedback up just a little bit by default as well, because I like quite a bit of rhythmic delay happening in the mix. And we'll go ahead and turn this up on the hi-hat and see what happens. Maybe bring the attack on this hi-hat up just a little bit so it's softer. A little bit less decay and a little bit back in the mix here. Cool. That sounds pretty good for now. Let's go ahead and load another sound and see what we can do. If we take a quick listen to our beat here, I'm really finding that this hi-hat sound is sounding a bit more like a percussion sound to me. So what I'd like to do is go ahead and add another sample with a little bit more of a crispy top-end clean hi-hat sort of a sound. And let's go ahead and find something like that to load to pad 4. So I'll select pad 4. We're going to hold function and turn our sound browser knob here. And we're just going to keep scrolling through the hats. In fact, I'll press play so our pattern will preview in the background. And I'm looking for something that's like really high and thin sounding as a hat. Well, in fact, that's perfect right there. There's really just so many samples in here, you guys. It's easy to just, find something that just works right away. Depending on what sort of a vibe you're going for. There's just all sorts of variety here. I'm going to go back to that one that was next to galloping because it really was pretty much perfect for what I'm hearing in my head. Yeah, that's it. Absolutely exactly what I need. So I'm going to hit yes to go ahead and load that sound on the pad 4. And then we'll hit the record button so that I can just step that in. And I'm going to get my 1, 2, 3, 4 bearings straight by starting the beat from scratch here. Okay, cool. Let's go ahead and put some reverb on that hat. Yeah, definitely more of like a techno beat than a house beat, so let's give just the tiniest little bit of delay to this. Not much so that it's overdriven, but just a little bit there. We'll bring this back in the mix again. Not really again, because we haven't done it the first time, but we'll bring it back in the mix now. And what let's do is let's go ahead and adjust some creative pannings on that. If I go back into record mode and we can see our triggers here. If I hold the trigger, I can now turn this pan knob and I can set this parameter lock to just this trigger only. So for instance, I can pan this hi-hat hit to the left, I can hold this one down, and I can pan this hi-hat hit to the right. And I can repeat that with the ones at the bottom so that we've got kind of a left-right thing happening, kind of like a call and response sort of rhythmic thing happening. Plus we're adding to the stereo width of our overall sound by doing that little bit of panning automation, which I think is a good thing, because I really like to keep the kicks straight up in the middle, and often I like to keep my snares and claps like straight up in the middle, and pretty much every other sound in the drum, you know, spectrum here, I'm going to do a little bit of panning on, so that, you know, we try to get a wider, you know, drum image here. And we could go into the tuning page, and we could maybe adjust the tuning and see if this hi-hat seats itself into our mix better, maybe if we down tune it. I kind of like the way that sounds. Maybe bring that back in the mix a little and put a little bit more reverb. I'm a sucker for just drowning things in reverb. If that's not really your vibe, then, you know, obviously when you're building beats, don't add as much reverb. Or when you're sculpting the reverb effect inside of the Digitakt, when you're going function and reverb, you know, just don't turn the decay up quite as much. You don't have to be so extreme with it if that's not, you know, the vibe you're after. Maybe pull some of these lows back and get a wider spectrum of frequencies coming through our reverb there. Cool. Yeah, I like the way this is sounding. Okay, so we've got a kick drum loaded onto pad 1. We've got kind of like more of a percussion than a hi-hat loaded onto pad 3. And we've got a hi-hat sample that's loaded onto pad 4. Let's see what else we can do. Okay, so let's see about loading a clap sound onto the second pad here. We'll go ahead and play our beat, and I'm going to go ahead and select our second pad. It's going to load it. I'm going to clear that. Fantastic. So what we'll do here is I'm just going to play the beat. We've got pad 2 selected, and I'm going to hold function and scroll, and we're going to try to find a clap sound that sort of, you know, gels with the groove we've got started. So I've got pad 2 selected here. We've got function and sound browser, and I've got the prime snares pack installed on my bank C, so we'll go over there. Let's start at the very end this time rather than just starting where it leaves us. Let's start all the way at the very end and just kind of preview here. I kind of like that, but we're not going to use that, but that's really interesting nonetheless. Big snare. And we're back to sort of a house vibe, you know? Or rather, Latin EDM, maybe? Kind of like that vibe. Ooh, for some dubstep, my goodness. Ooh, for some drum and bass, forget about it. Okay, what let's do is let's go ahead and scroll over here to our menu, and we're going to scroll down to filter. We're going to select filter, and we're going to go through, and we're going to just select clap. We're going to hit yes, and then we'll scroll back to over, you know, one click, which is going to sort by the snares that have the clap label on them. So this is going to give us a bit more what I'm actually, you know, after here sound wise. I keep previewing with our beat so we can find something that really gels. Whoops. Let's start at the top here. Here we go. It's got a unique sound to it. That's cool. A little too snappy, maybe. It's giving us kind of a hard techno vibe with that one. That's a really unique one. Ooh, that's kind of a really nice traditional sound. It's more what I'm going for. Yeah. Let's load that one here. And let's go ahead and turn the volume on that down just a little bit. And let's go ahead and give it some reverb. If I hit the record button here, we get into step mode here. Now we're just working with a 1-bar pattern at this point, just something really simple to show you kind of some of these sounds. Got kind of a clicky, techno-y sort of thing happening here. This is cool, I'm digging this. Maybe even some more. Actually, let's do a sort of a call and response thing with the, I'm, sort of just trying to showcase the sounds, and my head's not really in the creative writing aspect of using the Digitakt right now. But the beauty of the Digitakt is that, it does have these parameter locks, you guys. And what we'll do is we'll set the, excuse me, put this panning back to center here. I grabbed the wrong knob. We're going to set the reverb by default on the clap to like a relatively low number. And then I'm going to hold the second clap and I'm going to dial that reverb up quite a bit, so that the first clap will be a little bit more dry and the second clap in the measure will be a little bit more wet. Again, creating sort of that shifting call and response aspect to the beat. And it should be subtle, but you should be able to hear it. So what let's do is by default, we're going to turn the reverb down a little bit more, and this way our first clap's going to be a little bit drier. And I'm going to hold this second one down again, and I'm going to turn this reverb up even a little bit more. I'm also going to go ahead and try experimenting with turning the delay up on that second one, but just a little bit. And let's see how that sounds. It's giving us just a really subtle sort of a call and response here. We might be able to do kind of a stereo width thing very subtly as well. If we hold the first snare and maybe pan like say 4 to the left and the second one and say 4 to the right. I said snare, I meant clap. Cool. What we could do now is maybe turn this 1-bar pattern into a 4-bar pattern so that it has a little bit more variation. And what we'll do is we'll hold the function and we'll go to page. And we'll see our pattern length here is just 16. If I click the page tab a few more times, we'll get a 64 beat pattern, which is now a 4-bar pattern. And it's copied all of the measures out for us. So now we have a 4-bar pattern, and which light is lit up over here on the lights is which, representative of which measure we're in at that time. So measure 1, and then measure 2, and then measure 3, and then measure 4. So now if I select the first track, right, and I go into record mode, it shows us that we're on the first, measure here. But if I click this page button, I can, scroll to the other pages. And now I'm on, literally the 4th bar of track 1, which is our kick pattern. So if I put an extra one here, it's going to give us that turnaround kick down, dun, 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 sort of at the end of that. And what I'll do is I'll, automate, not really automate, but we'll do this parameter locking function to bring the volume down on this turnaround kick drum. I want to play the pattern so that I can affect this while I'm hearing it. Bring the envelope release down a little as well. Okay, that's exactly what I'm looking for. We're going to make it a little bit shorter on the release, maybe 15. And I'm going to go in on the attack here by about 2. We're going to go over to the tuning page, and I'm going to detune this a little bit more. Just ever so slightly. We'll bring the level down so that it's different from the other kicks. You follow? You hear how it's different? Last thing we're going to... Sorry, talking over the beat there. The last thing that we're going to do is we're going to actually go into the... I did that wrong. We're going to go into the trig page here, and we're going to hold that trigger, which is, again, just that turnaround kick, and we're going to make it a conditional trigger so that it doesn't happen every 4 bars. We're going to make it happen every 8 bars. So what we'll do... Let's see here. Yeah, this is what we want. We want this, no, sorry, we want it to play 2 out of 2, yeah. So as it plays through the pattern 1 time, it's not going to play this trigger. This trigger is only going to be played the 2nd time out of 2 times. So if it's a 4-bar pattern, when it plays back the 2nd time, it's going to become an 8-bar pattern here by adding this kick drum on measure 8. I hope I explained that okay. I'm not going to do too much craziness like that here, but this is going to basically give us more of an 8-bar feel than a 4-bar feel. So 2, measure 3, measure 4, Didn't hear that kick turn around, right? 6, 7. Now we'll hear the kick. Okay. I hope that that made sense. What let's do now is we've got these sounds loaded, all right. Nothing here on pad 5. So let's see if we can't let's see if we can't, I'm gonna get a drink of water here. Let's see if we can't find another percussion sound to load up onto pad 5. I'm gonna go ahead and play the mix so that we can preview in context, and I'll just hit function and scroll to do that. Make sure that we have pad 5 selected, and I hit function and just start scrolling. Now let's see here, I have the prime percussion bank installed here on my E bank, and let's see here. Whoops, we've got the filter on still. So we'll scroll over to the left and we'll scroll down and just click to turn the filter off. Then we can scroll back and we can get a free range of movement through our bank here. Again, if I hold function down while I'm clicking yes and scrolling, and I'm always holding function down, I'm not actually loading anything until I let go of function and then hit yes is what I'm actually loading. So you can sit here and scroll through these sounds all you want over your beat and stuff, and they won't actually load until you let go of the function knob. So I'll press play, hold function. Again, this is the prime percussion bank, and there's some effect sounds in here as well. I don't really have anything in mind to search for, but something is bound to jump out at us, if you know what I mean. That's cool. So again, some of these sounds really have some, preset, settings. So for instance, as we're scrolling here, you can tell that there's some pretty, serious effects built into that preset right there. This is quite a bit different than scrolling through just samples that don't have all of these 5 pages of, effects assigned to them already. Kind of liking that. Kind of liking that a lot, actually. So let's go ahead and load that one for now. We've got a 4-bar loop to work with, and what I'll do is I'll go ahead and hit the record button. Then I'm going to hold that, and I'm going to tap the play button, and it's going to say unquantized live record, but I want to be quantized, so I'm going to hit that again to get into quantized live recording mode. And now when I tap on pad 5, which is that new percussion sound, it's going to record the part in. So if I can remember what I had in mind to play in, as it gets back around to bar 1, I can play it in. 2, 3, and... And there we have it. Now what we could do, I pressed the record button a few times to just stop the recording on that while it was playing. What we could do is we could just, play the groove, and I could mess with the tuning on that and see if by shifting the pitch of that sample, if it seats itself into our mix any better. It's a little loud by default here, so I'll maybe turn that down just a touch. We'll go into the pitch here. Maybe it's hitting too often. So what we'll do is we'll hit the record button again to get into where our triggers are. We can see we're on page 4 here. I'm going to tap that to get onto page 1. Take that one out. Page 2 here. I'm going to take that one out. Go to page 3. Maybe take that one out. Go to page 4. That's a little bit more what I'm after. Yeah, right on. Let's go ahead and go over to the filter page for pad 5 here. And we'll see that there isn't anything really happening with the filter. I think we could probably do some cool stuff if we make this kind of like a dark sound maybe. Maybe turn the envelope up a little bit. And maybe bring that decay time on the envelope, the filter envelope rather, down just a little. Maybe play around with a little bit of overdrive on this, see what we can get away with, if anything. Just kind of bringing the level up on that. What let's do now is let's go over to our master page and let's engage the master filter on this mix and try to get the whole thing glued together a little bit more. I'm on a lavalier mic today for the first time, guys, and I'm on headphones, which I don't typically mix on, so this is a little bit odd for me. We're going to go ahead and slip over to the master page here by hitting function and master, and then we can see that we've got ourselves a threshold knob here for the master compressor. I usually like to bring that up to about 75 for default, and rather than just squashing the whole mix. And when I press play, we'll potentially see a little line over here on the right hand side of the screen, and that line represents how much volume attenuation we're getting from the compressor. So think of that as the more this line is going down, the larger that line is, the more volume reduction is taking place here. And you can adjust how much squeezing per se, you know, how much of that volume squeezing is happening using the threshold knob and using the dry wet mix of the compressor. So right now, and by default, the compressor is off and it's set to, you know, 0 on the dry wet. And I've gone ahead and adjusted the threshold. We'll just play our mix here. And what you can see is that we've got this tiny little, you know, dot happening. If I left the threshold down where it was by default, like down here, it's just, you know, gonna squash down our entire mix. But I don't really want that. I want there to be, you know, some dynamics in the mix, but I want it to be not super extreme with the little peaks and stuff. So we'll get it to where there's some reduction happening because we can see a little bit happening on the meter there. And then I'll just start dialing in the dry wet to taste. It's probably going to be difficult to do on headphones, but let's see. Yeah, I think we're going to go with 53. That sounds quite a bit better. And everything is really feeling a lot more glued together at this point. Cool. On this one here, on that percussion sound, let's go ahead and soften the attack on that by one more. And let's bring that down in the mix just a touch as well, to give the hi-hat room to breathe, basically. Now I think we could maybe get some more like low end, some more depth out of this sound here if we go back into the filter page and maybe mess around with the filter and the resonance. So let me do that here. You probably have to have headphones on or really good speakers to hear it now. It's sort of acting more like a sub. But it definitely has some attitude down there, and I really like the way that sounds. Let's scope out our master page again. So we're not getting too much squeezing happening here. Let's play with that threshold a tiny bit. See how it's just I don't know if you can see that, but I mean, it's just the slightest bit compressing this at this point, compressing those peaks. You might even be able to get a little bit hotter dry wet here. Let's stick with 53 for now. You could push that a little bit hotter, say like if you really, really needed to, like to get a hotter signal. But I think we're pretty solid here. I don't want to overdrive the video too much. Okay, let me see about thinking about one more thing we could add to this beat, guys. Let's go ahead and just scroll around inside of the prime percussion bank, because that has some effect sounds in it as well. We're going to go ahead and highlight pad 6 here. We're going to go ahead and press play. We're going to just start scrolling around inside of the prime effects and percussion bank again. I really like that. That's nasty. Sorry, I got sidetracked for a minute, guys. That's bizarre. That's unique, huh? Oh, that's a big one. I hope these aren't too loud. I really apologize if they are. That's a really hard techno kind of effect. As is that one. Alright, let's see what we can find here. Sorry about that. Just, wow, so many. Ooh. Let's do that. It's kind of like a kicky, sort of percussion-y, low-end sound here to keep our low-end rhythm going. This will also help us get some swing in the groove. We're going to get some swing. I'll show you what I mean by that. We're going to go ahead and put a little bit of reverb on this, I think. I'm going to go back to our reverb page and maybe give us some more reverb decay. More of a bigger, warehousey kind of a sound there. Again, this is just a taste, it's just a personal preference. Okay, so if I have the pad 6 selected here and I hit our record button, you see that I'm on page 4, so I'll click that and we'll go ahead and go back over to page 1. And I'll sort of think about where I might want that to go. We might want to put it on the snare there. Let's see what that sounds like. That's not bad. What let's do is let's get creative with the panning on this sound, you guys. And what we'll do is, actually, I didn't need to exit record mode there. We'll need to have that on so we can see our trigs. And these are our step triggers, this is page 1. And what we're going to do is we're going to hold the first trigger down and we'll assign the panning on that sound to maybe like left 15. The next sound we'll maybe do like right 15. This one over here, maybe we'll do like a left 15 again. And then let's go to page 2 and let's kind of repeat this again. Actually, let's continue going with opposites so that the whole thing, so left and then right. 15, page 3, we'll make this left 15, and right 15, and left 15. Now this is just giving us a little bit of extra interest in the beat and giving us, that little bit of extra stereo width in the mix as well, which is always helpful, I think. Again, I don't really want to pan my kick drums or my claps so much, but the other sounds, definitely get your slight, your subtle pannings on for sure. sounding pretty good. Okay, so I'm on headphones today, guys, which I'm not real confident on the mix with. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to shut the camera off real quick and give a listen to this mix on my actual monitors and maybe do just a couple of level adjustments real quick. So hang on 1 second and maybe we'll add like another sound to this when I'm done. Wow, good thing I took a moment to do that. The kick drum was massively overdriving the mix there and had quite a bit of lows on it. So what I did was I went to the filter page on the Digitakt here, and on the kick drum, I went ahead and turned that high pass filter up quite a bit and brought up a little bit more some envelope rather, on that as well. So that gives us, you know, still kind of a punchy, funky kick drum, but not as much of the subs that were sort of overdriven that I couldn't quite hear on these headphones. So let's give a listen to what I've got here now. I think that sounds quite a bit, you know, cleaner and more precise. Let's go ahead and load ourselves like something else onto track 7 here. Let's see what we can find, guys. I'll just hit play here and we'll scroll for something for pad number 7. Okay, let's see here. On my bank H is my lo-fi dub bank. Ooh, that's really nice actually. That's just kind of like a lo-fi vinyl texture. Let's just go ahead and load that. That works really well. Got that on pad number 7. If we go into record mode and we put that on the downbeat, whoops. Had some tracks muted there, sorry about that. Let's see if I can get that into the mix. I'm gonna bring this way down in volume, like way down, so that it's very subtle, as if it was, you know, coming off of an old record or whatnot. It doesn't need to be like the forefront of the sound, but you want to just barely sort of hear that kind of effect in the mix. Unless you want it to be, you know, super drenched in that sound, then by all means, leave it up. What let's do is every other one of these, let's make play in reverse mode to give it a little bit more of a non-static feel. So if we go to bar 2 and I hold this down, we go over to the you know, play mode here. I can tell that to play in reverse. If we go to bar 4 and I hold that down, I can tell it to play this trigger in reverse as well. Maybe pull out some more of the lows on that sound so that it's just this tiny, subtle sort of, you know, record noise in the background. Just very subtle. I hope you guys have found this useful. There's really so many sounds included. You could make pretty much whatever style of beats or whatever style of, you know, lo-fi kind of music that you could think of using these samples. Thanks for watching, guys, and until next time. Wait, we didn't put anything on track 8 though. Maybe we could try to do that really quickly. Maybe if we just like, you know, scroll for like say on bank, let's see, I've got my prime kicks, prime snares, and prime hats over here, and maybe we could filter these by like, you know, a cymbal and try to find some sort of a ride there. No. Okay, here we go. In the lo-fi dub bank. Okay, so what I did there, guys, is I just, you know, went to the, you know, the browser here, press to the left, scroll down to filter, hit that, and then choose what kind of sound I'm looking for, right? In this case, it was a cymbal because I'm looking for a ride cymbal. And then, you know, in any of your banks, you know, you can scroll through any of your banks. There's not a lot of ride cymbals in here. If you're looking for ride cymbals, you're going to have to get that lo-fi dub bank. So let's check some of these out. Whoa, it's a crash cymbal, rather. And let's go ahead and hear some of these in context with our track to give us a much better idea of which to load. Whoops. I hit the track button instead of the function button. Let's try that again. Start at the end for fun. Ooh, I like that one here. Ooh, I like that one here too. Okay, these are all pretty good here. Just depending on what sort of a vibe you're into. Alright, yeah, that's the one for me there. So we'll go ahead and hit yes. I'm gonna bring that way down in the mix. Maybe not quite that low. And then what let's do is let's put in a really quick creative ride part, right? We'll go back to measure 1, put this on the downbeat, and then we'll go to the trigger page rather. No, I want the volume. So what we'll do, rather is we'll put like an 1/8 notes, ride pattern in. And the second one, we want to be like ridiculously lower. And so now I've got a full velocity ride hit and a very low velocity ride hit. And what I can do is I can hold that trigger and hit the copy button. And then any other place I want to put that trigger, I can just paste it in. So I can go, hit it here and go paste, hit it here and paste it in. And then I have the low velocity one that I made right here. I can hold that and go copy, and then I can hit wherever I want that and paste it in and paste it in. And now we've got on bar 1 an 1/8 note ride part. Ding, 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 right? These are really low. There. See if I go out of record mode here and I mute the other tracks, you can hear them maybe way too low, in fact. So what let's do is make these not even remotely that low. Let's make these more like 80 and see if we can hear them a little bit better. Doesn't have to be precise because, real drummer is not super precise. But if you're looking for that mathematical sound, then yeah, you want them to be exact. It depends on what you're going for. That sounds pretty nice. I don't want that second one to be as loud as the first one and just hit, the listener over the head with the ride. We want to get some groove in there still. So if I'm in the record, mode to put in our triggers, I'm on page 1 here. I can hold function and page. No, sorry. I can hold function and copy. No, sorry. I'll get it. I can hold function and copy pattern. No, that's not quite right either. I'm trying to just copy this whole page of triggers. So is it page copy? It is, in fact, page copy. Sorry if you can do that and that was painful to watch. We'll go ahead and go to page 2 now, and I'll hit page paste, and I'll go to page 3, and I'll hit page paste. And so basically we're just triggering the whole measure of the ride sample across page paste. And now we've got that ride sample happening on all 4 measures. Now I did promise earlier that we were going to get some swing in here. I had forgotten about that. Let's do that now. We're going to go ahead and press play. I'm going to go to our tempo page and we'll adjust the swing to get a little bit of funk. Bring these other tracks back into the mix. Okay, cool. And we're going to go to our tempo page rather. Bring this up to like maybe a little less. Maybe even a little less. I like that. The ride is still pretty heavy in the mix though. So let's bring that down in the mix and maybe adjust the tuning of that ride and see if it seats itself in the mix any better. Again, this sort of thing is really about your personal preferences and what sort of, sound that you're vibing on. A little bit of flamming happening on this pad number 6. Let's see if we can adjust that the tiniest little bit and make that smooth, eh? If I have, pad 6 selected and I hit our record, button to go into the triggers, we can go ahead and go over to make sure we're on page 1, and I can start the playhead and see where that flam was occurring. Right, happening on this one here. So the easiest way to, avoid this flamming would be to just delete this note. But there may be something creative that we could do instead. So maybe we'll just hold this, and maybe we could just shift the timing of that note by pressing this arrow. Maybe like, I don't know, a couple of shifts over and see what that sounds like. Yeah, all that does is emphasize the flam. No problem. What we'll do is we'll go ahead and delete that, and we'll go ahead and delete that one, and we'll go ahead and delete that one, and then there isn't one on the 4th bar. So what does this sound like now? Yeah, cool. We'll go ahead and turn get out of record mode and hold function, and then we can unmute the track so that all the 8 tracks are playing again. Now if we hold function and let's see here, and the yes button, and we save this pattern to the temp area, we can do all that creative stuff that you see a lot of YouTubers like Cuckoo doing and stuff like that, like Andrew Wong, like, creative YouTubers. We can hold play, and well, excuse me, we're not going to hold play, but rather we're going to start the groove playing, and we're going to hold the track button down, and that's going to affect all 8 samples, any of the knobs that I play with. So for instance, if I'm holding track, and I'm affecting all 8 samples, and I tweak the tune knob, that's gonna dramatically affect the tuning of like the whole groove. Boy, I'm stuttering like crazy, of the whole groove and whatnot. But at any time, I can just hold function and the no button again and get back to the original state of that pattern, to do the reload of that pattern. That sounds a little bit bizarre, so let me show you what I'm talking about. Again, we've hit function, and yes, pattern saved to temp area. Now if I hold track, I can go nuts, right? And bap, boom. And then I can just hit function and no again and reload that, which is kind of cool. You can do the same thing with like the filter page, right? Hold track down and just start. Probably not a good idea. It's exploding the lows there. Reload that. You can hold track and turn everything reverse. And then put it back in. I like that one quite a bit. To hold the track and shift all the tracks into reverse. And then, function, no again. So again, track, function, no. Stuff like that is pretty cool. Anyways, thanks for watching, guys. I think this is a pretty cool beat that we've created today, and I hope that you found this useful.